Whilst NBA offense is constantly evolving, pick and roll remains a staple of most coaches' playbooks. The Dallas Mavericks recently used a pick and roll based attack to pick apart the number 1 ranked defense, the Minnesota Timberwolves, in the Western Conference Finals. League-wide, NBA teams averaged 68.8 pick and rolls per 100 possessions in the 2023-2024 NBA season. That's just about 2 pick and rolls every 3 offensive possessions. Hence, with how entrenched pick and rolls are in NBA offense, it's imperative that high-level ball handlers are skilled playing out of ball screens. Malik Monk, one of the leading 6th men in the NBA over the past 24 months, is no exception. According to Suteki, Malik ran 4.7 pick and rolls a game this past season, good for 52nd in the league on frequency, and rating as very good efficiency-wise. And if anything, that's probably underselling the amount of pick and rolls he ran, as Synergy only registers pick and rolls that directly led to a shot, free throw, or a turnover. That means a play like this, where Monk's threat created an open 3 for Chris Duarte, isn't counted by Synergy as one of the pick and roll possessions Monk ran this past season. However, despite being one of the leading pick and roll guards in the league, there's a difference between the way Malik creates out of pick and roll and the way most other guards create. Firstly, there's a lot of nuance to pick and roll. Even going back to Iverson and Nash pick and roll tape from the early 2000s, there are multiple ways bigs screen, whether that's setting a hard screen and rolling late, setting a touch screen and getting early into the roll, or slipping the screen altogether. There are also numerous decisions ball handlers can make out of each different pick and roll scenario, and we haven't even touched on what happens when a ball handler rejects the screen. This video isn't meant to be a pick and roll manifesto. However, as reductive of the nuance of pick and roll as this statement is, I believe a common theme to most guards' default pick and roll attack is the big setting a hard, often illegal, screen. This is because the default defensive coverage for most teams defending the pick and roll is still the drop coverage, where a big man sits back in the paint to take away layups and control the defensive glass. Even in the playoffs, where defenses often have to deal with the best pick and roll players in the league, defenses will still use a healthy dose of drop coverage with varying levels of success. Once a guard comes off one of these brick wall screens, they have acres of space to attack. While some guys like Spider Mitchell and Ja Morant can eat up the space conceded by a big and drop and finish deep in the paint, ball handlers mostly attack this space by shooting pull-up jumpers or floaters. In fact, because of the prevalence of this style of pick and roll creation amongst the league stars, bigs who set these hard and often illegal screens well are celebrated and valued by fans and coaches alike. Steven Adams is a prime example, but even someone like Kevon Looney has earned playing time over younger, more athletic bigs like James Wiseman and Trace Jackson Davis because of his monster screening for Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. Many players in the league, especially the stars, work religiously to master these types of drop coverage beating shots in the off-season. Hence, in games, many players can catch a rhythm taking and making shots outside the paint against drop coverage. Once a ball handler has caught that rhythm, the defense normally has to adjust and have their defensive big come high on screens to hedge or blitz the pick and roll. Whilst this gives the pick and roll ball handler less space to shoot off a screen, it also vacates the lane, which gives the screening big space to roll downhill with force. In summary, the process by which most ball handlers attack and pick and roll involves initially hitting shots against drop coverage, which then forces defense to adjust, and then creating rim pressure and open shots for teammates once the defensive bigs have vacated the paint. Now, whilst Malik Monk also thrives against drop coverage, his pick and roll process is quite different to the one I just outlined. As opposed to the majority of guards who rely on hitting shots outside the paint first before creating for others, Malik is able to create high quality shots in the paint, even with bigs in a drop coverage. Now, let's take a look at the skills that come together to give Monk this unique ability on offense. It all starts with Malik's legitimate blow-by level speed with the ball. In the playoffs last year, he gave the Warriors all kinds of issues penetrating into the lane and either scoring at the rim or creating for others. Now, Malik probably lacks the other skills required to be able to consistently create rim pressure out of isolation. Skills such as elite handles, strength, or a deadly pull-up jumper. However, Malik's ability to beat his defender's hip consistently aids his pick and roll creation. Even when the Kings' bigs don't make contact with a screen, the mere threat of them running out to the three-point line causes defenders to concede driving gaps in anticipation of contact. On this play, Norman Powell sees JaVale coming to screen his left hip and hops forward in anticipation. However, Malik capitalizes, driving past his hip and creating a downhill 2-on-1. These clips aren't necessarily bad defense. Good defenders consistently reposition themselves before a screen comes, to give themselves the most time and space to react and fight over the screen. However, against a quick guard like Malik Monk, even textbook on-ball pick-and-roll defense can be exploited. With Malik able to drive past his defender even without the hard screens most other guards need, the Kings' bigs, usually Domantas Sabonis, are free to either set these touch screens or even slip the screens altogether. In turn, the Kings' bigs are often rolling downhill at the same time as Malik's drive, which creates downhill 2-on-1s consistently out of Malik Monk pick and rolls. However, Monk getting downhill consistently is just a small part of his unique effectiveness in the pick and roll. Most good guards in the league are able to drive past defenders in similar contexts. For example, here's a clip of D'Angelo Russell, a player known for his distinct lack of explosive athleticism, flowing past an athletic defender. What really separates Monk from the majority of guards is his high-speed processing on the move. When Malik drives in these 2-on-1 situations downhill, he's elite at making these split-second passes to his roll man in a variety of ways. Malik has a high level of understanding of how to draw the defensive big's attention, which creates windows for his rollers to score at the basket. Here, it's a hard dribble in the paint that draws Schengen to the ball, which creates an angle for Sabonis to catch and finish. Malik combines this ability to draw the drop big's attention with a great passing repertoire. He's very skilled at blending his passes into a live dribble, as he does here versus DeAndre Ayton. And this is a skill Malik has flashed since his Hornets days, where he'd hook up Cody Zeller and Billy Hernangomez constantly when given the rock. Whilst not as effective a playmaker when driving to his weak hand, Malik's still capable in these spots. And more importantly, he's not afraid to pass into tight windows, even at full speed. For many other guards, it can be a struggle to playmake at full speed, especially to the interior. In fact, part of the Warriors' game plan in the 2022 NBA Finals was to exploit Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's limitations as full-speed decision makers. They did this by switching everything and encouraging their defenders to pressure the ball and funnel the Jays into the paint. The combination of outstanding mental capacity and passing creativity allows Monk to be a high-impact interior passer and playmaker in spots most guards struggle. Occasionally, defenses adjust and commit extra attention to the Kings' bigs in the lane. However, that brings Malik's 43-inch vertical to the fore. Malik Monk is an elite finisher off 2 feet in the paint, especially for a skinny 6'3" guard. He's able to contort in the air and finish around, or at times even through, 7-footer centers with ease. Take this pick and roll against the Grizzlies. Xavier Tillman, a shorter but burly center, is in a drop, but Malik simply goes straight through him for the and one finish. Joel Embiid is a high-level shot blocker and drop pick and roll defender, but even he's powerless when Malik plants 2 feet in the paint. When he's really cooking, Malik can even combine his 2-foot bounce with his split-second processing ability to pull off insane, alien-like plays, such as this mid-air pass fake into the weak hand up and under finish against Brook Lopez. Another way some bigs defend downhill 2-on-1s is by sticking with the roller up until the last possible moment before the ball handler takes a shot. For example, as James Wiseman does here effectively against Klay Thompson. However, against Malik Monk, bigs should try that at their own peril.
Here in the third has been cut to 4. Malik Monk gets inside. Oh, what a finish from Monk with defenders all around him.
So, outside of being unique, where's the value in Malik Monk's style of creation? Well, Monk's driving, paint-based style has lower variance than the aforementioned meta off-the-dribble shot-making reliant style of most ball handlers around the league. Whilst pull-up jumpers and floaters over drop coverage are more or less warm-up shots for most NBA ball handlers, a jumper is still statistically less likely to go in than a driving layup or a rolling layup or dunk. The league average efficiency on shots between 0 and 3 feet from the rim was 69.9% this past season. That roughly equals 1.4 points per possession for shots taken from the paint. Comparatively, Steph Curry's career-high efficiency on off-the-dribble jumpers is 1.21 from his 2015-2016 MVP season, a figure he hasn't matched since. Whilst I wish I had access to more granular stats to describe pick-and-roll playstyles, I hope that these stats demonstrate the general idea that shots at the rim will always be more efficient than shots outside of the paint. Hence, if most ball handlers aren't hitting off the dribble shots out of pick and rolls, that allows the defense to stay in their drop coverage and defend, for the most part, without rotating. In turn, that means it's much harder for the offense to create ball movement, which leaves offenses in a bind. Do we trust our ball handler to shoot themselves into a rhythm and start hitting their shots, and risk freezing out the other players on the team? Or do we move away from them and seek other avenues to attack? Overall, you run the risk of stagnant offense with a pull-up based pick and roll creator, and this manifests even at the highest level of basketball. Take the recent Nuggets Timberwolves playoff series. Jamal Murray missed a lot of pull-ups and floaters against the Wolves' drop coverage, which contributed to the Nuggets' eventual series loss. Against Mini, Jamal shot 40.3% from the field and 33% from 3, and a significant part of his shot diet were these open pull-up jumpers coming off the pick and roll. Jamal Murray is a supreme talent, and the Nuggets wouldn't have won the championship last year if not for his heroics. However, if Jamal was a more capable driver out of pick and rolls, could he have created more looks for his centers such as Jokic and Aaron Gordon? And could that have helped Denver topple Minnesota? I would say yes. Finally, it should be noted that there are weaknesses to both styles. Malik's paint-based style was partially exposed in the 2023 playoffs by the Golden State Warriors, who packed the paint, in turn causing turnovers from Monk. Thus, this past season, Malik actually shifted more towards that pull-up based creation style out of pick and rolls, taking, and thankfully making, a career high volume of mid-range pull-ups. This video is not trying to say that one style of pick and roll creation is clearly better than the other. Rather, it's just shedding light on a unique creation style Malik Monk demonstrates on a nightly basis. That's the end of the video. If you've got any thoughts or feedback, I'd love to read any comments you leave. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching.